Today we're going to talk about the brand new episode of the L Word Generation Q Season 3, Episode 5, Locked Out. So let's just get straight into it. So as always, I'm going to break this down by character. Sophie and Finley, I've said this a good couple of times, but I think their breakup is coming any day now because I just don't think anyone from season 2 is going to survive season 3, and they are just playing out the same storyline every episode. Like, how many times have we talked about, yes, we did meet Dre in this episode, but it just seems to be having the same conversation, and there are other ones that I'm like, I just don't feel. I really like Finley. I wish that they would develop her story more because I think there's a super interesting angle there with her family and the religion stuff, which they've just dropped. I think there's interesting stuff with, you know, her sobriety and all that. But and I wish that they would have Finley go back and work at the Alice show. But apparently Alice is just like cut off, which I'll talk more about in a minute. But I'm not interested in their relationship at all. I don't know that a lot of people are because I never see anyone talking about Sinley and things like that. And I get frustrated with them as well, or like their storyline, because I just think about all the time we've wasted on them. And even in episodes 1 and 2, when we had precious moments with Bette, Tina and Gigi, and we gave so much time to their storyline, I've never seen anyone on social media talking about wanting more Sinley scenes, or, you know, making edits that get 500,000 views, or clips of Sinley getting 25 million views, because it doesn't exist. And the point I'm trying to make with that is, other shows you'd be like, people on social media, you know, but this show lives and dies by social media. This show wouldn't be on television right now if it wasn't for social media. It wouldn't have come back, and it wouldn't have a 3rd season. I have been told this literally from the show. This show is on because of social media. So you should be playing to not doing everything that social media says, but you should be taking the fucking temperature sometimes and seeing what are people connecting with, because it sure as hell isn't this.
We slept together once, but we hung out twice.
Okay, so you like them enough to call them again?
I guess so.
So I don't really have much more to say about them. I'm sure it's going to be the same storyline over and over again that they keep talking about, that's going to break them up eventually. I'm sure towards the end of the season we'll see them like moving on with other people. Micah and Maribel, I just am so not interested. I like the actors, they're great. I just do not like baby storylines at all. I feel as though the writers have no fucking idea what to do with these characters. So like so many writers before them, they'll be like, oh, they can have a baby. And it's frustrating to go from characters that like were missing from some episodes, that were in one scene, and then now they're taking up these huge chunks of the episode just talking about baby storylines. And I'm sure there's people out there that connects with them, and good for them, but it's just not something that I am remotely interested in. I wish that they would give these characters an interesting storyline, because they've been around the entirety of the show, 3 seasons, and there's been at no point that I've ever been interested in their storylines. And there's so much you could do with those characters, so much. And if you're going to have them around, give them something to do instead of just a baby storyline, which is just, do we really need another one of those? So I just wanted to say that quickly before we get into everybody else. And so Danny, I think they have no fucking clue what to do with Danny at the moment. And every time I see Danny, I just think, Jesus Christ, you fucked this up so much, and I miss Gigi. That's all I think when I see Danny. I think that they're just the Roxy thing, and they had her like leave like a voicemail here, so I'm assuming that character's going to come back. And they also had Danny meet Dre in this episode. I think something's going to happen with them, but she gave her a card and stuff, and we see Dre at the Fletcher party because Sophie is wearing that green dress and falls in the pool. We know that's the Fletcher release party, and there's like a scene in the trailer real quick of Dre and Sophie's wearing that green dress. So I'm that guy from Always Sunny with all the webbing, so they do seem to and it looks like Sophie and Dre are getting close, so I don't think them and Danny is really going to be anything. I think at the most it would maybe be like one hookup, but it seems like Sophie and Dre, but I don't think that will last at all. So Shane and Tess, they have the majority of their scenes locked on their balcony, and I mean, I've just never felt super connected to Shane and Tess as a couple. This conversation was a little bit strange. I think that it showed that actually they aren't really right for each other. There's not really much to say because I just really was like, okay, like it didn't really speak to me in any way, and I didn't feel super connected to it. I mean, it's just Shane doing the same thing that we've seen Shane do for 20 years. And I know in season 1 of Gen Q, Kate was saying, I hope they don't have Shane do the same stuff she was doing in her 20s, but it seems that they've overruled that. And I know a lot of people always will be like, well, they're executive producers. But I think if you really listen to a lot of stuff that they say on the Pants podcast, where they can be a bit more open, I think it's obvious that the writers very much do what they want, and the executive producer roles are a bit more of a paycheck rather than actual control. And speaking of executive producer, it's like Jennifer Beals, like her name isn't in the credits anymore, and although it was like, oh, a statement taking your name off, after like some reflection and speaking to other people, I think it's much more likely that Showtime took her name off rather than her taking her name off. So honestly, we'll probably never know the actual like truth of what happened, but I do think because of just the way that Kate and Leisha are portraying the title and what happens and the control that Showtime has and the money and all that, I do think that it was more the network removing Jennifer Beals rather than her herself doing it. So Alice has yet another episode where she is just taken away from all of the rest of the cast apart from one scene at the end with Shane. I cannot for the life of me understand why they are doing this. Alice, Leisha Haley, that's your star, and you are fucking this up so much because one, there's no group scenes, there's no one interacting, there's nothing. When the original L Word, like, that was the biggest, best part of the show, was everybody interacting. Like, some of the best scenes, like even early on when they go and see Laura Perkins and all that stuff, like that's what people loved about the show, and they're just missing this. Like they just, I don't even know what's going on in their heads, because it's just like really fundamental stuff that they've thrown out. And to have Alice last week in a Halloween episode of a gay show, and Alice, the star, is just not there, like that was lunacy. But then this week she's in a movie theater basically like alone for most of her scenes, and yes, like Joey Lauren Adams, great person to have on the show, but this like guest star, like it's driving me insane. Like I feel like there's these massive Bette, Tina and Gigi holes, and they're just trying to shove all these guest stars in, and there's no connection because I don't care about a guest star. I don't care that they're in like a few episodes and they're gone, like, and most of them you're not gonna see again, so why would I care about them? And you have Alice that was happy for one episode, and now it's like, oh no, she's not. I thought they were gonna recycle the throuple thing, but apparently they're not. I don't even know what's going on, because we see Tom is coming back in, I think it's episode 7. So what is going on? If you honestly said like, okay, write down, we're halfway through the season, this is halfway, and you said write down everyone's storyline this season, what would you write? Like, seriously, what would you write? Because I can't, like, what is Alice's storyline? She went on a dating show and went on a date, and that's like it. Like, there's what is anybody's, what's Shane's storyline? She cheated? Like, that's it. Everybody else is just, I feel like we're just moving from episode to episode, getting by. There's no overall, like I said last season, that was one of my biggest complaints. There's no like overarching, this is the season storyline, like this is everybody's individual storylines, and we're just moving from episode to episode. Like, this isn't, I don't know, they're treating it like it's like Friends or something, where there's just like mainly standalone episodes where it doesn't matter like what order you watch it in, because there's just nothing connecting anything like in really most characters' ways. Like probably Micah Maribel's is like the one that actually goes like episode to episode. Everybody else, like, they're just getting by. So the one thing I did like is Alice and Shane's scene at the end, and it just made me think, why is this not, like, why are we not seeing more of this? This is what works, this is what people like, this is what people want, and you like tack it on the end in a really small way for a short scene. Like, it just absolutely baffles me. Leisha Haley and Kate Manning, like, they're your stars, and they're relegated to one scene at the end. Because let's break this down. Like, last week Shane and Alice didn't interact, okay? Next week is a musical episode, so I'm like, you know, just forget about episode 6 for a second. Episode 7 and 8, each of them is missing an episode. So out of 4, 5, 7 and 8, you have one Shane and Alice scene. One. That's it for 4 episodes. And they are together next week, and I really hope that next week is good, because since I was on set in September, they've told me episode 6. I'm not a huge musical person, but surely it has to be good. I really hope it is, because I don't like coming on here and talking about all the things I don't like. Like, I love this show. I talk about this show every day of my life. A huge part of my life for 20 years has been the show, but also this now, that like I spend so much time on this show every day. And I found this week, like yesterday, the day before, I had like a time hop of 3 years ago, and it was me posting on Facebook basically saying like, oh, I love how the new L Word episodes drop on a Sunday. And it was exactly 2 weeks before I started my channel, because that week that I posted that, I remember looking on YouTube to see if anybody was talking about the show, and I remember the only person that did any sort of like anything was Evelyn, and she was doing like recap videos, and I was like, oh, there's no one talking about this. And I knew the show had a big loyal audience with social media following. And 2 weeks later, I said, oh, I'm going to start covering the L Word. And it just happened to be when Laurel came back. And, I couldn't manufacture that. No one in the world could have predicted that. That was just luck. And that's why I was lucky when I started my channel. But seeing that, I was like, that's like how I feel about the show. And if you go back and look, like, I always talked about what I loved and things that I really enjoyed. And if anything, people used to say, oh, you're too easy on the show, or you give it too much of a pass. And that's because if there's 75% that's good and that I enjoy and characters that I like, I can forgive 25%. But I can't forgive 80%. I can't forgive an entire episode that I don't like, and then the last scene is good. It's so frustrating to see something that you really love just be, I don't even know what's happening, But I really, really hope that next week is a good episode, and I'm just living for episodes 9 and 10. I really am. And there's just some things that aren't gonna come back either. Like Gigi's not coming back for episodes 9 and 10, and they still are refusing to say anything, which is just truly, truly astounding. So I don't know what is going on, but if you guys still want to watch along with me, make sure that you're subscribed. It really, really helps the channel out when you do that. And follow me on social media. And as always, make sure to stay safe, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.